Blizzard's IP license on sale. Leaked. Blizzard to sell game rights? Talks have already begun. Oh, man. I don't know how I feel about this. So why would Blizzard be doing something like this? As an IP attorney, I could tell you. The reason why you're going to license your IP, which is your most valuable asset, by the way, especially for a games company, your IP is the most valuable thing. When you have action figures made for your company, when you got to sign over some IP rights to have these things done, Blizzard signing over IP completely, to me, maybe says we're going to get some, like, Chinese, mobile games or something like that. I guess I'll let the video play. Let's see what Blizzard's plan are. I guess we'll get more games under Blizzard's IP under this, but let's see.
So how would you like a new StarCraft game? How would you like 4 StarCraft games? Because today we're going to talk about the rumored return of StarCraft, right? One of Blizzard's biggest franchises.
Is that what this is about?
It seems credible. We all remember how breathlessly excited Phil Spencer was about taking over the Activision Blizzard IPs. It seemed like they'd actually cook something. But so far, we've not really seen much in development. Like, there's been Game Pass ports, but not much else,
right.
Not much solid. But now, a year and a half
I want to say technically Warcraft Reforged was a licensing of IP. I mean, they literally had some Chinese company. They had some NetEase affiliate remake Warcraft Reforged, and that was a complete shit show. So we'll see how this goes.
We're actually starting to see the first teases of what's going on with those franchises, especially StarCraft. And I wish I could tell you that I'm breathlessly excited.
Yeah.
But I'm not. No. The monkey's paw always
the gaming industry has become so cynical. So as StarCraft being licensed out to be made into a new game basically just sounds like, okay, we're going to make some money. But here comes a bunch of microtransactions, guys. My husband would love StarCraft. I think a lot of people would love more StarCraft. Unfortunately, if they license the IP out to some random offshore company to remake and remaster, I feel like it's just going to be a giant microtransaction orgy. That's all we're going to get out of it. So what's this? We'll see.
Something you don't know about me is that I enjoy building things like this app front end.
No, this is an ad. Pela, that's an ad. Are we buying an IP?
Boot, you'll learn back-end web development using Python and Go. I've got a sick.
No, but evidently Blizzard is selling their IP. So we'll see.
As a programmer. And why I love Boot, though, specifically is how it works, because it's basically a fantasy RPG. You've got quests, XP, public leaderboards. I mean, just look at the public leaderboard updating in real time as real users are doing lessons.
One can only hope Cody's here.
Like the spell book, which is packed with programming reference material, but you unlock it as you progress in a natural way. It's so cool. And that's all because Boot's founder loves RPGs, actually a viewer of our channels, and that's why he's built it for people like us. And you'll learn real practical programming skills, not just basics. That means portfolio projects, mastering Git, and what you'll actually need for a real job. Right. The best news is you'll get 25% off your first purchase at boot.dev/BellowingNews.
Okay.
And it's zero risk. You can browse their content, do demos, and a lot more for free. And when you do buy, backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Before we hit the story that just broke, it's clear someone at Xbox remembered that StarCraft exists, right? Because earlier this year, we saw an entire StarCraft-themed expansion for Hearthstone, which was a little bit weird. Then, over the last few weeks, we've actually seen some neat things, like this announcement of a new official StarCraft game, which is, in fact, a licensed miniatures game from Archon Studios.
Yeah.
Gotta be real, though. It's maybe not...
So this is a licensed game. Yeah, they sold their IP for this. That's what this stuff is. I would expect Microsoft to recognize StarCraft and what its potential really is. I mean, they are the Age of Empires company. They literally remastered Age of Empires, and it was a great success for them. It was really good. They made a lot of sales because of it. So yeah, if Microsoft purchased Blizzard and they're looking through the toy box to see what kind of things they have, I would expect them to recognize that an RTS could be a top-down RTS could be profitable. So yeah, StarCraft coming back, not a surprise.
Minis? Hell yes, that's pretty awesome. At least it's like a flickering ember of activity for a series that has effectively been dormant for years, where Blizzard basically said, hey, we've literally put it on life support. But here's where today's story gets interesting. StarCraft 2 almost certainly will stay on life support, but StarCraft as a games franchise, well, very much apparently not. Here's what's just happened. Asia Today is exclusively reporting that 4 companies are bidding to get hold of the StarCraft license. And this is also that they can make new games as well as get global publishing rights for StarCraft.
Wow.
Now, it's not a sale of StarCraft as an IP. That would be extremely depressing. But what it is basically a license opportunity for Xbox and Blizzard.
And not a surprise, just so people know, and I'll ask a question to the class here. Do you guys know what the #1 export from the U.S. is in the entire world? You know, we're talking about bringing manufacturing back and all this shit. Do you know what the #1 export from the U.S. is? It's IP. That's right. Intellectual property is the #1. Before you got all fucking answer at once. Intellectual property is the #1 export from the U.S. That's what the U.S. does. We do R&D. We do research and development. We create all this shit with our brains, and then we send it off to other countries to make stuff with. We send it off to other countries to manufacture for us. That's the #1 thing. So this is not a big surprise. This is an industry standard here. But StarCraft IP being sent overseas on a bidding war to see who they're going to make, it's a surprise because StarCraft is essentially dead. And people are looking to buy it up. Who knows what they're going to make? An FPS? An RTS? I mean, it depends on what the license allows, but it could be just about anything. Could see a StarCraft, what's it called? Like a Netflix series or something. Now, this is going to China, so probably not, but I'm just saying that kind of stuff, when you license your IP out, that's what you're allowing.
Somebody
isn't military? Military. By the way, what's military? It's all fucking IP. It's all research and development. Now, yes, that's top secret stuff. So we're selling off weapons and stuff. If you want to say hard cold export, like of a product, yeah, it would be military weapons and things like that. But no, in terms of just sheer volume, IP is the #1 export from the U.S. You are Canadian. Why are you talking about not fucking Canadian?
Somebody else can pay them for the license, agree to their terms for using that license.
Yeah, military stuff's definitely up there, though.
And well, make video games with the company who has got the license being, of course, the people who accept all of the risks that are involved in making a new StarCraft game in 2025. Now, time for it to maybe get depressing, because the report claims 4 companies are in the running for the license, and those companies are NCSoft, Netmarble, Nexon, and Krafton. Now,
I don't know any of these
currently
guys.
It's unclear whether these are the only companies who are pitching, or simply that they are the ones that this particular outlet was able to get information on. I suppose big picture it says...
Oh, shit. Oh. 89. AWOO, damn, that fucking alert scared the shit out of me. AWOO coming in. We were just in the midst of watching this Bellular video about IP, and there's all. Thank you so much for the raid, man. 89, I appreciate that.
As, hey, StarCraft Plus licensing appears to be a thing. Now, per Asia Today, though, these bids are actually far enough along that they're fairly real. The companies have apparently pitched Blizzard at Blizzard's own campus. What's interesting is that all 4 companies also had aspects of their proposals leaked to Asia Today. So let's talk about our exciting news.
This is actually exciting. All right, let's see what these guys are pitching to Blizzard to pay for. We're about to find out what they want to make.
StarCraft games.
Out of the StarCraft franchise, which to me has a lot of potential still. To me, honestly, StarCraft, Helldivers is what StarCraft could have been. If Blizzard had been, thinking about what they could do with the franchise, where it could go next. Fucking Helldivers is StarCraft. Literally, you could have literally had the StarCraft universe as a, drop-in FPS where people are just fighting against endless waves of mobs taking over planets and everything. It was perfect for it. And they just let it, not happen. They just let it sitting there on the shelf. So there's potential for this franchise. Let's see what these guys want to do.
NCSoft wants to make an RPG. Kind of makes sense. They do Lineage, Throne Liberty, they do Guild Wars. Maybe that could work. I'm suspicious. But then Netmarble wants to, make mobile games with, and I quote, deep gameplay. I love deep gameplay in a mobile.
Yeah, it's not. There's nothing deep about mobile gameplay. Shit, we're fucked, guys. They're just gonna micro that. We're gonna get a StarCraft Candy Crush. Great.
Game, I'm sure that's not monetized. Then Nexon claims that they've got a plan for a, quote, unique way to utilize the StarCraft IP, which, to be honest, sounds like a threat.
The scope in this contract reportedly includes development of a new games in various genres, as well as publishing rights for the global market. Okay, well...
And Krafton then say that they would leverage their existing development studios to make something new, though whenever they were
what is this? Which achieved a global success with a battle royale game. All right, now we're in a BR in StarCraft. Now that's something. That would be cool. It is known to have challenged this contract by planning to develop a new StarCraft based on its own development capabilities. Regarding this, as Krafton officially said, there has been no confirmation. Okay, this. Get rid of mobile. Give me this. Yeah, a battle royale in the StarCraft universe, and I think that would be something people would be interested in.
Asked about this, they did deny. So, Who knows?
We'll
First
see.
up, though, it's worth pointing out that all of those companies are South Korean. That's generically interesting. It's also interesting because, well, StarCraft plus Korea, it's kind of a thing. Second, though, these are all companies deep in the live service game mines, right? They're full monetization, all the lovely dark retention techniques that are designed to get people hooked in and paying. That's what these companies do. And then third, none of them have got a history of making strategy games like this. That being said, well, if they're big South Korean companies with lots of South Korean developers, they probably have a few StarCraft players knocking about the place. I suppose the closest company with like competency here would probably be Netmarble, but that again would be restricted to mobile strategy games, which, again, I don't think we really want. Maybe it would be better than the Electronic Arts Command and Conquer mobile game. Anyway, what this seemingly means, though, is it's not StarCraft 3, and it's far more that IP being, well, slung about the place.
I think if there was going to be a StarCraft 3, it'd have to come from Blizzard. I highly doubt any of these companies are going to pay millions of dollars just to make an RTS third version. That's not going to bring in the cash like, unfortunately, a fucking mobile game would. Or hopefully a BR would.
We have a realm to destroy.
Sinistered Fox, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. There's potential in a BR. Okay, whether you want to sell skins, do that kind of stuff, like there are a seasonality to BR. There's ways to win in the money game using a BR rather than a mobile game, which is just such an easy. I understand it's such an easy way for them to make money, man. It's such an easy way. So unfortunately, I feel like that's the bid that would win.
Now, of course, right now, there is no hard
StarCraft with an Archon head.
will be granted, right? Whether they'll be exclusive licenses or even that only one will be accepted. We can basically say from this that there are discussions, that clearly something has changed where...
It has been confirmed that some of these game companies have gone all the way to Blizzard's headquarters in California to make presentations in order to secure the competitive edge, sure. Blizzard is known to be looking for a games company with development capabilities, publishing capabilities, and global market capabilities in the process of selecting partners and are closely examining each game company's proposals. And like, this is not a weird thing, by the way. You guys know Riot does this with their freaking shit all the time. All these Riot IP games that you see, all random FPSs and all this shit, or the fighter game that a lot of these were just licensed IPs out to other companies. They didn't make this themselves. So this isn't that weird in the industry. Well, what I'm hoping is that the right company gets it and we actually get some good StarCraft IP out of this.
They've maybe realized Blizzard Entertainment is not going to utilize StarCraft outside of the way that they are right now, which I'll get to in a little bit. Therefore, they may as well make money off that brand by licensing it about the place, which does make a lot of sense, but can be kind of dangerous, especially if you give it to a bunch of companies who don't exactly have the best reputation when it comes to player experience. So I'll definitely say don't get hyped, don't pre-order anything, and don't expect StarCraft 3 from them, but also don't expect it from Blizzard. But Blizzard are...
Yeah, unfortunately, Blizzard's looking to license this shit out. They're not making a StarCraft 3, I think. But we probably already knew that. Minority here. I had fun in Plunderstorm. I hope it can... I love Plunderstorm. I think Plunderstorm's great. That was a fun-ass BR, and I hope it does come back, in seasonal content or something. And yeah, I think making it a console version or something, that'd be a lot of fun.
Making a StarCraft game right now. I'll open with a quote from Jason Schreier. He said this when he was doing the press tour for his book, which is called Play Nice. The quote is, yes, they are working on a StarCraft shooter. Those are the facts. I've been able to independently verify that. I've talked to people who are sort of floating around that space, shall we say. Yes, it is true. They are making a StarCraft shooter. They've actually tried to do that multiple times. So it's a shooter. It's going to be led by Dan Hay, who is a producer on Far Cry. He moved over to Blizzard, and it represents the third time they've tried to make a StarCraft shooter project happen. Of course, the one before this was basically a Battlefield-like project. And, I love rubbing salt in the wound. Maybe pour in some vinegar as well. So just to make things sting even harder, that StarCraft Battlefield game, from what I heard, was goddamn sick. It was really cool.
This actually sounds badass.
Do you know why they cancelled it? Because they needed Overwatch 2 and they needed Diablo 4. Big happy...
My God. They canceled it because of Overwatch 2? Oh, well, I mean, at least Overwatch 2 is extremely successful, right? It's not like that got completely overshot by a Marvel version of the same game that's done it better. Good decision, Blizzard. Jesus
He
Christ.
smiles. I'm very pleased. Anyway, we've even seen job listings at Blizzard for a open world shooter project. That was in November 2024. I think that does sort of...
By the way, you guys know Marvel Rivals, that is licensed IP, right? This is a perfect example of what this is. Marvel, the company, or it's Disney technically because they own Marvel, licensed the IP out to a Chinese games company who made Marvel Rivals. Yep, that's same deal what we're looking at here. Rivals is wonderful though. Yeah, Marvels is better than Steampunk.
We have a realm to destroy.
Thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. Yeah, Marvel Rivals is better than Overwatch. It is. So hey, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have more character selection, cooler character designs and balances. It's just all better. It's all better all around, and that's just a licensed IP game.
line up with this. Now, to be clear, I'm fairly sure this game is still in a fairly early stage.
Don't say free Hong Kong in that game, though. Can't do that.
It is true that they have got like tech and design work done from the prior like Battlefield style Starcraft shooter. I don't know if much of that will be able to transfer over. What I do know though is that Far Cry producer was part of a kind of like top echelon within the unannounced survival game. Obviously that game, it was announced as an unannounced game and then it was cancelled and I suppose unannounced. Now there were humongous job cuts on that team. What I do understand is that some of the top echelon of that team then moved over to do this new StarCraft project, which I, can't imagine feels particularly
I've seen
great
this
to a lot
before.
of ex-Blizzard employees. Anyway, putting all of this together, we could totally see multiple StarCraft projects in development in time for the 30th anniversary of StarCraft, which would be in 2028. But I would say that absolutely nobody appears to be making a strategy game, let alone a sequel.
Yeah.
Not even Blizzard Entertainment.
It's not going to happen.
And here's the thing that really does hurt, and it hurts me especially. I love RTS. It's not hard to imagine why they wouldn't. The strategy game audience is harsh on sequels, and some of that's because games like StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 have shown us exactly what we like. That makes it hard to do a follow-up. As an example, Relic nearly collapsed after Dawn of War 3 and Company of Heroes 3. Hell, Dawn of War 2 put off so many people who liked Dawn of War 1. And just take a look at Blackbird Interactive with Homeworld 3. Yeah, getting the
I haven't even heard of some of these
right,
games.
given all the constraints of budgets and timelines and companies randomly being dickheads, that seem to hurt the strategy genre.
Let us
In the
lay
indie
waste
sphere,
to this realm.
Tay, thank you for the follow on YouTube. Welcome to. I gotta silence follows during videos for now. It's happening more often. I mean, it's a good thing, but
there are spiritual
Damn.
successors, but they get a lot of flack. Maybe they're too similar to StarCraft. Maybe they're not different enough. Looking at Stormgate, there have been, consistently mixed reactions since launch. A lot of people, I would say, think that game came out too early into early access. They do really appear to be trying to get that right, but yeah, it's tough. Star 2 would always be a tough act to follow. So, with all that in mind, think about what happens when you try to make a sequel to StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. That's going to be hard.
It's not a good
Even if you're
idea.
Blizzard Entertainment, it's almost
I mean, as much as some people would love to see StarCraft 3, I just don't. Time investment wise, dev investment wise, it's just not a good idea. It's not. They're better off doing a remaster, like Age of Empires did, and they did do that, rather than making a third version of the game. There's just not. I feel like there's not enough big enough market for a third version of the game when you already got a decently perfected version of the game in the first and second, and you just remaster those. That's all these people want.
to be a development without any of the talent involved.
They exist. I know there's people out there who want StarCraft 3, but just the amount of time that would require, making a whole new campaign and everything else, I just don't know if it's worth their time investment.
In those original games. And
yeah, the RTS genre fell off, exactly.
Not only amazing design chops, amazing like maths chops to actually balance them, but just some of that vibes, some of that understanding, like intuition for the player that is so hard to get right in strategy games. And when you look at today's Blizzard Entertainment, you basically see StarCraft as an RTS is not worth them developing in their own opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just saying.
Clearly understand StarCraft does have cut through, does have brand recognition.
Yes.
Therefore, them doing some sort of...
It's a valuable IP, no doubt. It's an IP with brand recognition, which is why you can take it out of the genre that it currently exists in, which is kind of a dead genre for the most part in games, and put it in one that's, popping off right now. Put it in a BR. It's such an easy call to me. Halo made the mistake. Czar, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. The problem is them sitting on a good brand in a dead genre right now. And Halo did the same mistake. Like, BR is the way to go right now, okay? And it might be for the foreseeable future. Game genres come and go, but BR is a very adaptable genre. Had they taken Halo instead of what they gave us and made it in a BR, I guarantee you that shit would still be riding high. But unfortunately, they went with the Halo Infinite way, and they just tried to go 5v5, the old way of Slayer. And it's just, the replayability isn't there. It's just not the same. So you got to take StarCraft. It's a valuable franchise, and put it in something that's popular today, like a BR. And I think you'll have a winning combination there.
Big AAA shooter makes a lot of sense.
Not too much.
While then also licensing it out so they can start to exploit the hell out of that IP. One of the big things of the Microsoft acquisition was the acquisition of IP. A lot of that IP was kind of hoarded within Blizzard, and one of the reasons was they'd had trouble when it came to external developments. Even the stuff with Blizzard North and Diablo was kind of tricky and fractured. There's obviously Starcraft Ghost. That was external development stuff that really didn't go that well. So ultimately, Blizzard Entertainment for years and years did not want to license out its IP. So many people with development teams and money would look at that Blizzard IP and think, I smell an opportunity. Now that Microsoft owns Blizzard, and therefore has the final say in that IP, well, there's opportunity. And purely in the business sense, it does make sense to find licensees. Blizzard does not have the capacity to make enough games to exploit all of their IP that is right now just sitting there unused. But that doesn't mean that it can't be used. It can be used via other companies. The bad version of this would be shitty mobile games. StarCraft turning into that absolutely ungodly disaster that was the Command & Conquer mobile game. But there is a company who's actually done big-scale licensing right. And that's Games Workshop with Warhammer. So maybe there is a world where, yes, we get StarCraft duds, but perhaps we also get the odd Space Marine. I would certainly not be against that, and it's not lost on me that StarCraft was, let's just say, somewhat inspired by Warhammer. But it's not just StarCraft.
So I mean, literally, this game reminded me of StarCraft. When Warhammer and StarCraft, hand in hand, two peepees in the same hole. Definitely.
Austin me that
this could have been StarCraft easily.
Somewhat inspired.
What's up, Tim?
But it's not just StarCraft. So in 2020, Activision refused to greenlight a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake from Vicarious Visions. Well, that was pretty sad, and the reason why is that those devs were more valuable to the company as Blizzard Albany, because, well, they showed that they could be useful in Diablo porting and on Call of Duty work, so they got thrown into those mines. But now, under Xbox, that Pro Skater remake is actually coming out. Just it's coming out a bit differently. It's from the remaster and porting team at Iron Galaxy, and it's being done as a third-party licensee. So,
what is this? Did they remake Tony Hawk Pro Skater? Did I miss this? This was my game back in the day. Nintendo 64, Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I was all over this shit.
Beginning to use
When did this happen?
At PlayStation, Freedom Wars, Patapon, and Everybody Golf have all been remastered in the last few years. Sony still owns the trademarks in 2025, but they're not publishing those games. Instead, in every trailer, you can see that they license them to Bandai Namco. And Bandai Namco are the people who got those things going.
Damn.
The point basically is that that company has then worked with the relevant devs to polish and port those things to PC, Switch, as well as PlayStation. And I have to assume that part of their licensing deal there was that things don't get to be on Xbox. I've got to imagine then that that's what Activision Blizzard will be doing here. And it ties into the trends we've been covering on this channel over the last while.
It will be on console, no doubt. If they do a StarCraft, well, obviously mobile will be a fucking thing too, but if they do a StarCraft Battle Royale, 100% that'll be on Xbox. It'll be on PC too, but it'll definitely be on Xbox. That's a easily portable. And by the way, cross-platform, I mean, if you don't do that now, you're just hurting yourself. There's no reason not to.
Outsourcing, just in this case, it's on a wider corporate scale. So they're not asking, say, a random developer in the Philippines to churn out cosmetics under terrible conditions. It's just that these companies have simply got too much intellectual property and not enough developers. So you license the IP out, and there you go. You'll be able to get some returns. And
it's the same thing as licensing, as exporting manufacturing. That's what you're doing. The expensive part of making a game is the upfront development of the IP, the stories and everything else, and creating the entirety of the world and all that shit. That's the expensive part. Back-end development, that's not, it costs money, but you can export it and get it done for cheaper. You've done the big heavy lifting at the front end, now you can go send the back-end shit to somebody else. It's the same shit as manufacturing.
what? The risk to you is low.
These overseas developers
They
are
the
getting
people
better.
who pay for that license, and if the game ends up being shit, well, you can say it's kind of their fault. Because as much as with Warhammer we think about Space Marine, well, there's also the endless torrents of shovelware shite that came out under the Warhammer license. Just that Games Workshop were happy enough for so much Warhammer to occur that there would inevitably be good stuff that floats to the top, to the point where now Warhammer is almost a prestige brand within gaming.
There it is. I mean, float to this. Shit can float too, sometimes. Just saying.
And then will that happen to StarCraft? I guess I'll throw it to you. What sorts of StarCraft licensed games would you actually enjoy? I can think of several. And, well, I have a perfect follow-up video, especially one that the lads at Netmarble should probably watch. Because, well, the EU's targeting microtransactions in a way that will actually goddamn matter. Hey, maybe this will be the microtransaction equivalent of the USB-C port that's sitting in my phone. Anyway,
there it is.
Watch that video next.
Yeah, I mean, what would I like to see? Basically, a BR, I think, would be the biggest home run hit for sure. That would be the easy call. Also, like I said, like a Helldivers type, where it's like kind of like an MMO. It's like an always-on MMO. You're fighting against NPCs. What would we ever get, like a full-on World of StarCraft? No, it's not going to happen. I think people should just stop hoping on that one. That's never going to happen. We get a WoW 2 before we got a World of StarCraft, that's for sure. But to me, it's an easy call. Make it a fucking BR. And that'll be the best way that you could take the StarCraft franchise into the future. Nice video from Bellular.